Anos morando sozinha, mas dia o verdadeiro dono bateu na porta. For years, she lived completely alone, but one day, the real owner knocked on the door. Deep in the countryside, far away from busy cities and crowded roads, there stood an old ranch that most people had forgotten about. The wooden fences were broken in many places, the barn door hung slightly open, and tall grass covered the path that once led to the house. People in the nearby village often said the ranch was abandoned. But it wasn't. A woman named Maria had been living there for almost 7 years. No one in the village knew exactly where she came from. She appeared one winter morning, carrying only 2 bags and wearing a worn-out coat. At first, people thought she would stay for a few days and leave, just like travelers sometimes did. But Maria stayed. She slowly cleaned the small wooden house, repaired the broken windows, and planted vegetables behind the ranch. Every morning she woke up early, fed the chickens she had bought from the village market, and worked quietly around the property. The villagers rarely saw her, but when they did, she always smiled politely. Over time, people simply accepted that the ranch now belonged to her. Years passed. The old ranch slowly came back to life. The fences were repaired, the grass was cut, and flowers began to grow near the front porch. Maria worked hard every day, as if the place truly belonged to her. But there was one thing she never talked about. The real owner. Long ago, the ranch belonged to a man named Daniel Walker. He had inherited the land from his father, who had built the ranch many decades earlier. Daniel used to live there with his family. But after a terrible accident and a series of financial problems, he suddenly disappeared from the area. Some villagers believed he had moved to another country. Others said he had lost everything and never planned to return. Eventually, the ranch was forgotten. Except by Maria. Late at night, she sometimes sat on the porch and looked at the distant hills. Her eyes were always thoughtful, almost worried, as if she knew something others didn't. One quiet evening, just as the sun was setting, Maria was inside the house preparing dinner. The wind was calm, and the ranch was silent. Then suddenly, knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the door. Maria froze. Visitors almost never came to the ranch. Slowly, she walked toward the door. Her heart was beating faster than usual. She opened it. Standing outside was a tall man in his early 40s. His clothes were dusty from travel, and his eyes looked tired, but determined. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the man looked around the ranch, the repaired fences, the clean yard, the small garden. Finally, he said something that made Maria's heart sink. "I think you're living on my property." Maria felt the air grow heavy. She had imagined this moment many times, but she never thought it would truly happen. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. The man took a deep breath. "My name is Daniel Walker," he said. "My family built this ranch." The world seemed to stop for a moment. Maria looked at him carefully. His face showed signs of long years of struggle, but there was honesty in his eyes. She slowly stepped aside. "You should come in," she said softly. Daniel walked into the house. Inside, everything looked warm and cared for. The furniture was simple but clean, and the smell of fresh food filled the room. Daniel looked around in surprise. "This place looks better than when I left it," he said. Maria nodded slightly. "I tried to take care of it." They sat at the small wooden table. For a while, there was only silence. Then Maria finally spoke. "When I first arrived here, the ranch was completely abandoned. The roof was leaking, the fences were broken, and no one had been here for years." Daniel listened carefully. "I didn't know if anyone would ever return," she continued. "But I couldn't leave the place like that." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "I didn't plan to stay away this long," he admitted. "Life didn't go the way I expected." He looked around again, clearly emotional. "You kept the ranch alive." Maria lowered her eyes. "I only borrowed it." For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then he slowly smiled. "Well," he finally said, "maybe the ranch needed someone like you." Maria looked up, surprised. Daniel stood and walked toward the window, looking at the sunset over the fields. "My father used to say something," he said quietly. "He believed land doesn't belong to someone just because their name is on paper, it belongs to the person who truly cares for it." He turned back toward Maria. "You took care of this place for 7 years." Maria felt tears forming in her eyes. "So," Daniel continued with a small smile, "how about we take care of it together?" For the first time in many years, Maria felt something she had almost forgotten. Relief. Outside, the wind moved gently through the fields, and the old ranch, once forgotten, was finally alive again. And this time, it wasn't alone. Dash dash dash.